Frode Glesnes of Einherjer to LINEA ROCK. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So North Star is your 8th album, which came out on February 26th, proving your status, as the pioneers of blending, Northern Viking metal. You brilliantly actually mix black metal, some death metal, some folk atmospheres, and in 25 years, I must say that you've grown a lot with a strong consistency, very true to yourselves. This album marks the band's return to Napalm Records after 25 years. Is it like a new beginning and some way, connected, starting from its title to the legendary Dragons of the North, the first album from 1996? What would you say?
It's not directly connected, but of course we are back at Napalm Records now after 25 years, and that's just doing this for 25 years is some kind of an achievement. So it is really cool to be back. I mean, it's Napalm Records has changed a lot since the last time we were there. They were a small label back then, and now they are like one of the biggest. So that is really cool. And we have of course changed a bit over the years, and then now we are re-releasing our first album together with North Star as a new album. And even though they are quite different, I do see some similarities between them in the way we approach our music, and I think maybe that's because some years ago, 5 years ago, when Dragons of the North was 20 years, we took a deep dive into the music, and we actually re-recorded the whole thing and just put it out there as some sort of an anniversary, just to celebrate the album. And most bands that are re-recording old stuff, they do it because they are not happy with it for some reason. The reason why we did it was the quite opposite. We were happy with it. We wanted to celebrate that release. But the thing that happened is that when we took a deep dive into the music that we were doing when we were like almost kids, almost like 20-ish, we got some surprises because a lot of the stuff was really thought through and it was well done. Of course, there were also quite a few things that we laughed a bit about, but that's okay. And the thing is that I think that after we did that re-recorded, that kind of changed us a little bit because we kind of dug up our roots. So I think we kind of got back to that way of thinking, and maybe that way of maybe not completely arranging songs and stuff, but at least it has some sort of impact on how we work today. Yeah.
Which is the most, that black element in North Star, and which is the most Viking flavor of the album? What would you say?
Good question. I honestly don't think there is so much black and death metal in our music. I think the foundation of our music is really heavy metal because we are heavily influenced by the classics. We grew up with 80s stuff, and that has always been a very important source of inspiration for us. But of course, you do have the vocals, which is not classic heavy metal. That's more out of that black metal sound, more or less. So I would say that is the most extreme part of the music. When it comes to Viking, it's all about atmosphere, really, and also that is what we are trying to do here. We call ourselves or our music these days like Norse heavy metal.
Okay.
And the music is heavy metal. That's the foundation, and the Norse part, that is the spice that we add to it. The inspiration we draw from other other acts, other artists, other bands and musicians that are not metal. For instance, like Norwegian folk music or Norwegian composers like Edvard Grieg or Geir Tveit or something like that. And we also try when we are writing riffs. We are trying to create a certain atmosphere. We're trying to. Of course, the basis is heavy metal, but we're still trying to add some of that, the feeling of a bygone era type of thing. We're trying to, add that into our riffs, if you know what I mean. So
yeah,
I would say that the atmosphere that we are trying to achieve is the most Viking thing. Yeah.
Bathory are considered, the very first Viking metal band ever, or Nordic heavy metal if you prefer. What did you add to the genre as recognized pioneer, of course, of this Nordic genre? Which is your strong point, in your opinion?
I think, of course, Bathory is, the main band here, and also our main influence. I mean, it was because of albums like Hammerheart and Twilight of the Gods that we chose this direction in the first place. What we are adding to it, I think we do have our own sound. We do heavily rely on the influence or the foundation that we kind of found with Bathory, because prior to that, I haven't really heard any band that kind of managed to achieve that full atmospheric Norse kind of feel, because the feeling have to be right, and there are many kind of atmospheric bands out there, absolutely, and I think it has been something that we've been actually thinking about since we started playing. It's the combination of heavy metal music and Norse mythology and the Viking history, because the place where we live, where we grew up, is very rich on Viking history. So it was just kind of natural to think that way, and I have been searching, for bands and artists like that for years and years, and we found some, but it was never to the full, the full extent of things that the stuff that Bathory achieved. We didn't find out until we heard, of course, those albums, and everything kind of clicked, and we knew, all right, this is the direction. But at the same time, there were a lot of other stuff going on, in the early 90s. Yeah. Especially here in Norway, but also in Sweden and in other parts of Europe, with the second wave of black metal, which was something new and something fresh and something pretty extreme. So in the beginning, we wanted to use that influence as well, incorporate that into the mix. But even back then, we had this, heavy metal foundation, but we just let, all the bands that we thought were cool, we just kind of picked, inspirations from everywhere, really. Yeah. And I think we kind of ended up with a sound that we could call, Einherjer, and in many ways, I think we are still true to that sound today, even after so many years and lineup changes and all of that stuff. I think we are basically, working the same way as we used to back then. As at least we have the same approach, because we are the same two people that are still writing the music. Sure.
So as you said, you deliver a technically sophisticated songwriting. Do your complex approach make your metal way more fascinating for you and for those listening to it? What do you think? And musically, both musically and lyrically, with all the stories that are connected to mythology and all the stories in the lyrics. Do you, in a sense, aim by choice to an hardcore following, people which pay attention to the details or not? Or it's like universal, if you listen to heavy metal, you can actually catch what your band is all about.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I think so. It's also the way. The way we write now, especially as we grow older and stuff. We kind of, I think, we let our inspirations shine through more now than in the past, maybe, but also in a different way. I think there's a lot of details that I think a lot of people can find, intriguing and interesting. And of course, the basic, the music, the foundation here should be for everyone, really, because that is, more or less, basic, or not basic, but at least the foundation is heavy metal, so it's all about the energy,
Sure.
So that is kind of universal. And also when it comes to, inspirations and stuff, and it's one thing that I find pretty interesting that we are doing or have been doing for the last few albums is that me and Gareth, we grew up together, and we also kind of developed our musical taste together from the early days up until now. So we do understand each other musically very well. So now we are kind of trying to give each other like Easter eggs when we are writing songs and stuff for the other to find, and that's more or less like a nod or a tribute or a kind of salute to a band or a song that has meant a lot to us over the years, and especially the last two albums are full of that stuff, and that is of course entertaining for us, but I think also it's entertaining for other people, to find and listen to, and it's also there is so many extraordinary bands that has really influenced us over the years that I think it's really cool to just throw a fist in the air for them, So, and when it comes to the lyrics, I also think that we are writing lyrics a bit different now than we used to, in the 90s and the early 2000s, when things were basically based on Norse mythology and history and stuff. Today we are writing lyrics a little bit different, but we are still using, the metaphors and the Norse and Nordic, kind of wording and rapping. So this, for the listener, it feels that it belongs in this environment, in the Viking environment, which is where we are at, and which also is a place where we want to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we want to limit ourselves to the stuff that we did back in the day. So when we are writing lyrics today, it could really be about anything, but it's all about rapping, and so we are trying to write it so it's so we are using the metaphors in a way that it can be related to either the myths or whatever, something Norse. Yeah. During
your career, you have also written lyrics in Norwegian language. Do you think it is more fitting some way to the genre, that language, compared to English? And what makes the songs in Norwegian universal anyways? Could be that, those who are not experts in the stories you tell are missing out some atmospheres of your music if you sing them in Norwegian, or it's the opposite thing, because Norwegian is fitting better the music. What would you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that the Norwegian language, it sounds different than English. It's especially our dialect. It is kind of harsh, I think, and for that type of music, I think it fits perfectly, and it's not about getting the story out there either. That it's the thing, but it's and this goes for both English and Norwegian. When I do a vocal line, I think the rhythmic part of it is the most important thing, because that becomes a part of the song, So the vocals, sometimes it has a kind of percussive effect, because it has a rhythm, and that rhythm kind of adds to the overall feel of the song.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, we have always changed in between writing stuff in Norwegian and writing in English, and I think that's also a little bit about entertaining ourselves, because it is. I find it very different to write in Norwegian and writing in English, and I find both stimulating and both very interesting. The reason why this album got only English lyrics, that is pure coincidence, really, because the previous one, Norrøne Spor, that had 3 in English and I don't know, 5, 6 or something in Norwegian, and the English ones, those were the last ones I wrote for that album. And when I started writing for this one, I just started writing in English, because that was the thing I did, the last time, and I just continued doing that, and there was never a plan that all of the songs were supposed to be in English. It was just that when I was ready to write in Norwegian, there were no songs left. So it was like, okay, then we just have to go for this. So, yeah. And also, since we are singing in our writing and singing in dialect, you can't really just Google translate our songs either, because it doesn't make any sense. So, and also we haven't, I don't know why, but we've never translated the lyrics ourselves either. So it's like maybe we should, because I think that some of the best stuff I've done is in Norwegian. Probably on the last record and maybe the one before. So it's like, okay. There are good stuff there for people to find one day. Yeah.
Frode, sometimes when it comes to Nordic metal, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, let's say. What do you think of Lord of Chaos, the book and the movie? And what do you think of certain cliches about Nordic bands, like this one, for example? We have a photo. Do they make you smile? These photos say, did you know that 75% of Finnish park rangers' job is rescuing metal bands that get lost shooting album covers?
Yeah. But that's true. That's true,
Okay, so, and about, Lord of Chaos, the book and the movie, I know it's not strictly related, to you, but is it, that is something that when you think about the North is the first thing, in metal that comes to mind. What do you think, about that kind of cliches?
I haven't read the book, but I've seen the movie. And,
okay.
I mean, it is what it is, and it is entertaining, absolutely, and it isn't a documentary, but still, the stuff that's happening there isn't that far off either. So, I think it's for people that don't know that story at all. Maybe that's a good place to start. I don't know, but especially, I mean, if you're not into the music and you just want a piece of that story, maybe go for it. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that movie. It is entertaining.
Okay.
I find it quite entertaining.
You have been involved as a singer on and off for the band, and also as a guitarist, and now you are singer and bassist. Are you a singer out of necessity, or it's actually by vocation, but but you lacked, in a sense, the courage to launch, yourself on the mic, and you feel primarily more like a singer, guitarist, or bassist, mainly when you compose, for example?
Yes to all of that. I actually, when we started this band in '93, I did sing actually back then, but we didn't, and that was before we did anything. We were just, trying in every direction. But we also tried, all of the people in the band to sing, just to see what sound we had, within the band. And we all kind of went for Runa, the guy who sings on our first demo and also the original Dragons of the North.
Yeah.
That was the way to go. So he sang and I play guitar. And when he left, we got another singer when we did Odin on Cial, and that was more like a clean-ish voice because it was me and Gara. We kind of found out that okay, let's do this like proper heavy metal. In retrospect, maybe we shouldn't, but still, the album is out there, and that vocalist stuck with us for one more album, and then he left, or we told him to leave, and that was the time when I realized that okay, we can't have these changes, we can't have these changes every 2 or 3 whatever years. So the only way that this will never change again is that if I start singing. So that was the reason why I took over the vocals. I did backing vocals, of course, before that, but
sure.
But we wanted to have an expression that didn't change from album to album. That's the reason why that whole vocal thing went
okay.
on. And when it comes to guitarist, the bassist, the whatever, I've been playing bass and guitar for 30 something, 5 probably years, a lot, and I always played both of them. And when we found our new lead guitar player, Ole Svenstad, then I just found out that okay, let's just put down the guitar, and I can do bass, no problem. And I just let him do the guitar stuff, and I think that actually felt really good to me to do the combination of vocals and bass, especially live. On albums, I still track rhythm guitars. I still do that. That will probably have stuff, but in a live setting, I feel very comfortable now with the bass, over my shoulder and doing.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a record collector? And if so, what's the guilty pleasure in your collection? The most secret and unexpected album that you have?
Yes, I'm a record collector. I'm not that active like I used to be now, but I still do buy vinyls. But it seems that I just keep buying the same albums that I already have, just in different versions.
We all do that.
Yes, I do know that. I'm not really good with new bands, and it is the stuff that I grew up with, and the 80s that is my main decade. But when it comes to guilty pleasures, I don't think I have any guilty pleasures that I collect, in form of records and stuff. But that being said, the 80s and stuff, I also love 80s pop music. It is cheesy as it gets, really, but it's as older you get, the more nostalgic you get as well, So the stuff that I really hated in the 80s that my sister was listening to, while I was, listening to heavy metal, I just hated that pop music stuff. But now, the 20, 30 years later, that same music has a completely different effect on me, and that is, due to nostalgia, of course. But that's definitely my guilty pleasure.
So you mean you have an ABBA record in your collection?
I do.
Okay, so we can call that the guilty pleasure?
Yeah,
okay.
ABBA, a great band. Yeah.
You had 2 gigs for the launch of the new record in Norway. Small audience, but the clubs, actually theaters, reopened for you. How did you find the audience after the lockdown? How was the experience for you and for them? Yeah,
I think it was great. I mean, we played only for 100 people, seated audience, distanced and all that stuff. But I mean, for only 100 people, they made a lot of noise. It was really cool to do a gig again. We haven't done a gig now for over a year, and the last one we did was actually on that 70,000 tons of metal cruise in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
and even though that is about as exotic as it gets, but now it is just as exotic to play a gig in your hometown in front of you even know half the audience, and that just tells a lot of the situation right now. And now it was just killer to finally go back on that stage and do something again.
Yeah,
that really lit a fire, with us, because now we really want to go out there and do a tour, festival, whatever, So now we just have to hurry up and wait.
Sure. Now we're gonna see a video from the 20th anniversary night of Dragons of the North live at Wacken 2016. The title track, you played a set that night focusing on that debut album to celebrate, as you said. What do you remember of that night? And on tour, usually, what is the place in the world where you feel the most at home, just like home?
First, what I remember from that gig was that we played longer than we should. And the stage crew, they were pissed, because on such a big festival, everything have to go really, really smooth, And when we did the last song, there are timers everywhere, so you can't really miss this. But when we did the last song, I just looked over at the timer about, fuck, we're out of time. But all right, we have
How
to do
long
this.
Were you out of time?
Only 3-4 minutes, but a song. And I think it actually was the Dragons of the North that we, and we had to play that song, So yeah.
Okay, and which is the place in the world that you can call home, that feels like home to play?
That one is really hard, I think, but it is probably Germany. We've played in Germany a lot of times, and it is really, really cool to play there. Come to think of it, I don't think we've played in Italy since the 90s.
Wow, so a long time. Next time we're gonna make you feel like home. So that's a promise. That's a promise.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frode, for your time. Now we're gonna see the video and hope to see you soon back on stage. Okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ciao.
Bye.